Ooh, hello there, my fellow miners and crafters. Good times with Skaar here, bringing you another super awesome Minecraft episode. In today's episode, we return to the Scarland Beautification Project, where we're terraforming and building all sorts of amazing environmental enhancements. And in today's episode, we are going to finally add the glaciers and the snow and all the stone to Mount Skaar. So let's get this episode underway. And welcome back to Scarland, a land where we take survival building to the extreme, and we're overlooking the fishing cabin project where we started working on Mount Skaar almost 2 years ago, and it's finally time to put this place to rest and finally complete it with adding our stone and of course all of our glaciers and stone and all that good stuff. Now I've been planning this project for quite some time, but with all of the roller coaster project taking all of our time and finally completing it now, we can kind of work on these little side projects that we've wanted to work on for quite some time. And isn't the roller coaster amazing from out here? Look at that, man, isn't that cool? All right, so let's get right to work. So let's take a look at our palette of materials here. So our first stage of building here has been to add kind of the base outline of the mountain with dirt. So we've got that all built up and ready to go. Next we need to do is we need to add another layer, of course, and that is stone. And then from there, we're going to get fancy. And that's where we're going to have our stone, our diorite, our ice, and all sorts of other little details. But let's jump right into it and get started by adding some of our stone. So first thing we're going to start to do now is just start getting some of the stone laid out, and we're just going to start laying this all out, getting it all ready to go. For the most part, we're going to be laying it over the dirt. In some areas, we're going to dig into the dirt, remove it a little bit, add the stone in its place, like here, just little things like that. We're just going to start to add some along here and there like so. And then of course, maybe I think along this little ridge here, this is a good spot where you can just kind of knock out the dirt and start replacing it. So that's kind of my tip for building a mountains, is to kind of build it out of dirt, at least in survival. This makes it quite a bit easier in survival, just to kind of slowly get it all built by dirt. And that's what's taken us a long time, is to get all the dirt arranged. And for the most part, this place is pretty hollow. If you look in here, there's once I get in a certain area, I'll dig it out and then use that dirt to kind of continue the pattern going up. So once we get all this laid out, after we've got the layout of the mountain set up, now we need to add the stone. And what we're going to do with the stone is we're going to use it to go all the way to the top. But then down over here, we're just going to kind of kind of add the stone here and there, and to give it a kind of a nice feel how it's kind of growing out of the dirt. So I think that'll look really cool. And then of course, we're going to add the snow, which I'm excited about because we're going to try to use diorite to create glaciers. Now, when you think of mountains and things of that nature, if I look out at the Cascade Mountains where I live, I can see that the snow on the mountains have lots of little speckles, like a Oreo dough or something along those lines. And those little speckles are rocks and all sorts of stuff glinting out of the snow. So that's where I feel like diorite and these things can make some beautiful glaciers, and that's what we're going to try today. If it doesn't work, we can always go to our backup, and that's snow, of course. And we got a lot of options. Now, within the glaciers, that's where it's going to be kind of fun. The little glaciers we're going to make. If there's areas, we'll see if there's areas we can do this. But when you look at glaciers, there's also a little bit of turquoise, a little bit of purple, things of that nature. And when we can use stained glass to kind of enhance that. So I think that'll be really cool. But yeah, it's pretty much a tedious process at this point by just kind of finding these areas where we can kind of, go in, take out the dirt. I want to show you down here. Let's jump down here just real quick. I think a beautiful glacier is going to flow through this area along here. I think that'll look really nice. But let's jump down here. So this is kind of where I'm thinking about starting kind of the dirt layer. So the dirts are going to start right about here. I'm going to remove this top layer and replace it with coarse dirt, and then have the grass slowly be at the very bottom, coarse dirt, stone, and then of course this snow. So I think that'll look really cool, hopefully. And yeah, so let's get started. So I'm just going to take a little bit of time here to slowly add the stone, and I'll see you in a little bit. And welcome to the top of the world here. Look at the view up here. Isn't it amazing? Well, we're at the very top of Mount Skaar, getting the kind of the top of the stone all set up and ready to go. As you can see, look at all the stone work we've gotten done so far. We've got this pretty well built up here. It took about an hour, and we're about to here. So I think I'm making pretty good time so far on this. There we go. So as you can see, I'm trying to decide now. I think the biggest point I want to stress at this point of the build is this is a very, very kind of important part of the top of the actual mountain. There's a couple of areas that are important, and I feel like the top of the mountain and kind of the it's kind of where the tip starts to start, right about right there. It's kind of an important area to kind of get your perspective set. So always head away from it. Head over to, 100 blocks over there, like right at the station, and then look up and kind of see, oh, look at that. That block is way out. So it's always good to get kind of a far off perspective of your progress. And that's always good with anything, really. If you're painting or you're building, a Minecraft house or anything along those lines, it's always good to kind of step back and get a kind of a fresh perspective on it. And there we go. So when you're kind of looking at this, you want to make sure you kind of keep the force perspective going as much as you can. Even though this is gigantic, I still want to make sure it starts out pretty big at the bottom and then slowly gets a little smaller and smaller at the top. And I think we've accomplished that pretty well at this point. So the next kind of phase now is to start getting the glaciers all installed. So let's get that done. And here's that far off perspective that's so important to look at when you're building something of this scale. So you can see there's still quite a few areas we still need to get the stone installed and of course eventually get to the snow, but I think we are starting to get some amazing progress on this. And then you can see all the scaffolding. Don't you just love scaffolding? And welcome back to the top, and it's time to start working on the snow. So let's jump into our magical inventory here. And as you can see, we got some snow just for basic stuff here. And I have a little polished and a little unpolished cookies and cream block here. So we can kind of mix it up a little bit when we're working here. And of course, we have some standby snow and a little bit of ice. So let's get right into it. So first thing I'm thinking about is this zone right here is a perfect spot for a glacier, having the two peaks kind of coming together right here, so the snowfall kind of flows in this little triangle going down, and I think that'll be an amazing spot. By the way, that's going to be Skaar City, way out in the distance. Let me know if you're excited about Skaar City. Hashtag the number of how excited you are in the comments. There we go. All right, so let's do this. Let's see. Hashtag 11 for me. Anyway, let's see. Let's jump over here. Let's gonna grab out a couple materials, just a couple basic things. You might be wondering, Skaar, polished is gonna look weird. I agree. But on the other hand, we're not gonna notice too much of the kind of the strict lines that polished has. Let me show you real quick. See these lines right here? It might not look like snow very much from up here, but from down there, that lighter, smoother color does kind of look kind of nice from a distance. I did test it. So we'll just work on that. So as you can see how I'm starting to get a little bit wider with the pattern, how I start at a small little piece at the top, and then I slowly but surely here have been widening it here like this. And that's just going to create a really nice flow for the glacier. There we go, looking good. So I've only been skiing twice, I believe, in my life. And the first time I was very, very young, and the hills, it was pretty much cross-country skiing, like little dinky little hills, if you will. And it terrified me. Like, I remember there was an actual hill called the Tigger Hill, and I remember just like plowing my face all the way down it. But later in my life, a little bit later when I was about like 12, 13, I went skiing again, and I was really awful at it at the beginning, but by the end of the day, I was getting a little bit better at it. I really enjoyed it. Something I really wish I could do now, but being in a wheelchair is not the most easy thing in the world. But there is actually like these skis that you can kind of sit down on, and you can have somebody behind you attached to the actual ski, and there's like a seat, and you can just go flying down the mountain in it, and it looks absolutely amazing. Oh, what I would do to be able to ride on that. It would be so much fun. The only problem is the altitude's kind of a bummer because, snow, altitude, cold, things of that nature. I don't really breathe very well in the altitude, but man, I wish that's the one thing I want to do. I wish there was some kind of like fun, like sports thing. I just miss that so much, especially lately. But do you guys snow at all? Or do you guys snow at all? Do you guys ski at all? Do you guys snow, bro? No. But do you guys ski or do anything like that? Let me know. I wanna know if you guys do any of that fun stuff. There we go. Looking good. It'd be fun if we had sleds in the Minecraft and we could go flying down this hill right here. So as you can see, we're slowly just kind of building up a little bit here and there, making sure it's not too uniformed. All right, there we go. I want to see what this looks like from a distance. And there it is from a distance. Now we can kind of see that I think we've got a good place for our base of the snow. Now from this, we can add actual snow and ice and all sorts of cool details to it to really enhance it, and start, of course, adding more stone to the other pillars pillars of the mountain. Now I do think we might take the tip of the mountain up a little bit higher and then angle the second lower peak a little bit more to the right. It's leaning a little bit, so we'll shimmy it up a little bit, and let's get back up to the top. All right, and welcome back. So we got a good idea of what this looks like from a distance. Now it's time to start to add some variety to the design. So that's why I want to start incorporating. Now you might not always see these little details, but they'll definitely be there. And I do think you'll be able to kind of just get the impression of them. So as I'm adding these blocks here, I'm just adding a little bit of variety of the kind of texture of the stone. This does show a little bit from a distance, these blocks. They're a little lighter and they're a little smoother. And at certain distances, you'll definitely notice there's a little more variety in the stone. And I think that's important to kind of, or snow, my friends. I think it's definitely important to add a couple different styles to it, and I think this will definitely help the immersion. Now, I'm not adding it to a lot of areas, as you can tell, just here and just there. Now, the biggest kind of quandary that I have at the moment is I've got a pretty good idea how I want to do all this. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually start adding a little bit of snow here. So as you can see, I'm just going to start kind of adding little bits of snow here. This is something that if we don't like it, we can take it out and leave it how it is. So these little things here, we just leave the little bit of stone that the snow is kind of peeking through the rock there. I think that's really cool. And then the fresh powdery snow is sitting on top of that. And I think that looks kind of cool. And, you know, you can kind of decide for yourself. Do you want the snow to be closer to the top? And then it kind of gets to the more like frozen snow at the bottom and the more fluffy at the top? Or would the colder temperatures at the top make it more icy and the fluffier snow would be at the lower altitude? I don't know. That's just something to think about. There we go. I don't really know. Let's see. Bring that across there. So as you can see, we're just slowly kind of bringing that up, peeking the snow out. See how that looks really nice? It's a little bit smoother than that. I might come through here also and incorporate a little bit more polish than there is, you know, the rough stuff. So I might actually cut back on the rough and add a bit more of the polish. So I'm kind of liking it a little bit more this time, actually. And as you can see, this is pretty simple. You just kind of add all these little things together, and then at some point we can kind of start incorporating a little bit of actual snow blocks. So let's see if there's some areas where we can do that. Let's jump down here, and then like right here, this is a great spot where you can, you know, just add a couple little snow blocks here or there, like so, and then, you know, you come up here and then fill it in with a little bit of, you know, a smoother block. Like I call this like smoothing it out a little bit, you know, just taking the little pieces. I don't even know what they call this. What did they call this? Snow. I guess we can just make up a name apparently. So we're gonna call these the snow slivers. We're gonna call these the snow slivers today. So we'll just, you know, of course, add our little snow slivers along here. There we go. Awesome. So yeah, that's kind of how I'll do this for a little bit here. It's just gonna take a little while to kind of get it all down, and I'll catch you guys in a couple minutes. All right, and we're taking a look from afar once again. As you can see, the variety of the different types of snow and rock, I think, really come together. I might stick a little bit of stone sticking out of one section of it, just like kind of a little rock jetting out. The next area I've been thinking about doing is right about here, and then maybe a little extra down here, just a little bit, and then of course some at the top. And I think that'll make some really cool glaciers. So let's get back on top. All right, and we're back up here right under the actual glacier. So this is right where it kind of tips over the side of the rock. And I jumped up here, and I think this is a great spot for some ice. So I think it's really cool to add a bit of ice behind and around your glacier. So that's what I'm putting that down here, and I think that'll look really cool. And let's sneak over here a bit, and then we'll add a little bit back here. Cut that guy out, and let's work in this little corner over here. So, you know, we put down a lot of blocks, we take a lot of blocks out, but you know, that's the whole process. You know, we put down all these dirt blocks. It took us forever. Now we are taking out all the stone that we had just put down, but I think in the end, it'll worth it. It'll definitely be worth it. We're gonna have definitely a pretty darn cool little thing to show for it. And let's jump back here. And now this is such a subtle little thing, but this little ice back here, I think you'll be able to see from the bridges. And I think that'll be a really cool extra little detail to see within the actual glacier under there. And you can go, you know, if you're building your own little mountain, you can see, let's see, let me actually jump over here. Let me cut out some of that because I think this would be more realistic if there's a bit more stone back here. There we go. That's what we want. Nice. And we'll cut that out. And we can always, keep pushing that more and more. But for the most part, I think that'll look really cool. We'll dig out just a little bit here. And I want to add just a little bit more. I might even dig back just a smidge bit more. Yes, that'll look awesome. So let's carve out this last little chunk here. And then we can stick in a little bit more ice like that. And it's all the details, my friends. The more details, the better. The more details, the better. And that's what we're going to keep on adding. And yeah, just keep on moving along. And eventually we'll have ourselves a frozen mountain. And look at that beautiful mountain. I think the snow looks really beautiful and very subtle. We could have blanketed the entire mountain with snow, but I think this very, very kind of smattering of snow on the sides, I think looks really cool. Now, I would like to add a little bit more at the higher top up there. And of course, we need to add some more rock and some coarse dirt and all that good stuff. So let's finish that all up. And then we'll have wrapped up our entire mountain, which is super exciting. All right, and welcome back. So, what I'm thinking about for the very top of the mountain, I'm feeling like a little bit of subtle snow like we've done in the areas. I think like right around in this little spot right here, I think would make some good snow. So let's just quick a little bridge there. Awesome. And then I'm just going to cut into this section here and then build up just a little bit of snow on either side. Build it up like so, we'll cut in there, bring that up like that. And I think these very, very subtle little areas of snow at the top will be good because when you think about snow, of course, on the top of a mountain, I picture it being, blowing around and all that stuff and not very, sticky, very, very like frozen snow up here. So I think that is going to be a good idea. I'm just making up things as I go along here. It's not very scientific, if you will. So, it's just doing what I at least perceive from mountains. There we go. And I feel like that looks pretty good. So now we kind of cut in here. And you see that a lot with me is I like to put down blocks like this. I put these all down here and then I come back in with another layer of blocks like that. It can be a little wasteful, but it's also a good way for my brain works that way where I like to see it and then I can, take it out. It takes a little extra time or takes a little extra resource because sometimes you might lose a couple here and there, but it just helps me visualize it a little more clearly. And I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to sneak on down here, trying not to break anything. There we go. And jump over here. And I think back in this little section over here, I'm just going to stick a little bit of snow kind of going down the side like that. And I'll repair that a little bit. And I think that is good for there. And I think this is kind of what we need to do. And here we go, hardcore parkour. Haha, there we go. Awesome. So let's turn our backs here a little bit. And yeah, I think that'll look really cool. I think what we need to do on this section over here is add a little bit more over here. And yeah, just keep finding little areas like that to kind of stick a little bit of snow here and there. And I think that'll look really cool and continue to keep it as subtle as possible. And yeah, so let me finish this up and then we will do a little tour. All right, and welcome back and take a look at that beautiful mountain all arranged with snow and ice and stone and rock, looking super beautiful. And hopefully this episode has inspired you to create your own snow-capped mountain in your world. And I think that came out pretty darn cool. Let's jump over here just a little farther and see what this looks like from this angle. I think it also looks pretty cool. And you can see how the glacier flows down there, and we have a lot more work to do. We still need to work on the backside and add some more detail here and there, but we've definitely got a great start on it, and I think this will look amazing from the roller coaster and all over Scarland. And I can't thank you enough for watching today, and like I said, hopefully this inspired you to create your own super awesome snow-capped mountain in your own world. And if you do, definitely send me a screenshot. I'd love to see it on Twitter. And until next time, this has been Good Times with Scar, and we'll see you later.